Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining the MMA and Culture Group's webinar, Enter the Metaverse, Virtual Worlds, Real Engagement, and certainly Real Value. We're thrilled to be here today, and first and foremost, thank you to Rohit Dadawal and the entire team at the MMA for making this possible. My name is Michael Patton. I'm the founder and president of Culture Group, or Southeast Asia's leading pop culture marketing agency. And ultimately today, what we're going to help you understand, first and foremost, what is the Metaverse? Next, what's the Metaverse marketing ecosystem? And more importantly, who are the people building it and how do you begin to work with them? We're live today on the MMA Zoom. We're also simulcast on the MMA's LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube channels. And we have guests joining us from around the world, not only as attendees, but as speakers from New York, from LA, and from London. Also, wanted to let everybody know there's going to be a great white paper coming out in the next day or so. You'll receive it via email if you registered on our Zoom link. We look forward to sharing some more insights with you. And with that, I want to introduce the MMA's board chairman, David Porter. David is chairman of the Asia APAC board of directors at MMA. He's also Unilever's vice president of global media for APAC and Africa. And at Unilever, he's responsible for one of the largest media budgets in a diverse region spanning 14 time zones. Under David's leadership, the MMA has sought new ways to help brands and businesses understand how to engage consumers in our ever-changing landscape in this incredibly exciting region. Joining us from Singapore, David Porter, but first a quick video.
So thank you for that introduction, Michael, and welcome from a biblical rainstorm in Singapore, which I hope you can't hear. But we've also got some amazing speakers from around the planet, and I want to really call out a big thank you to any of our speakers who are in the middle of the night in the wee small hours, just got off planes. There were plenty of war stories while we were setting this up, so really appreciate having you all with us today. As Michael suggested, I joined the MMA's board, hoping that we could really help marketers pull together all the insights, all the resources that we need to thrive in this incredible region. And we've called this initiative #ShapeTheFuture. And the timing really couldn't have been better. And there's been, particularly around the metaverse, a lot of press in the last few days even. And I think we all know the way people and brands interact, it's getting much closer, more personal, and it's depending on...
David, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're getting some messages from some of our guests today that there's no audio, so I want to see if David Compton can help us fix that, and we'll start over from the top. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for bearing with us as we try and fix our audio here. We're aware of the problem for those of you who are following along on Zoom, and we're in the process of fixing it. If you can hear my audio, can you please send a thumbs up? If you can't hear, can you send a thumbs down? All right, first and foremost, thank you everybody for your patience as we dealt with some minor technical difficulties. Welcome and thank you all for joining. We have people from around the world joining on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. I also want to thank Rohit Dadawal, who leads the MMA in Asia Pacific and made today possible. Thanks a lot, Rohit, you and your team for all your efforts. My name is Michael Patton. I'm the founder and president of Culture Group. We are Southeast Asia's leading pop culture marketing agency, helping brands thrive through culture and business in some really exciting markets. What we're going to be walking you through today is first and foremost, what is the metaverse? Having established that, we're going to look at the metaverse marketing ecosystem. And then finally, you're going to meet some amazing creators, technologists, and marketers who are building the metaverse and enabling brands to engage in the metaverse. First and foremost, I want to introduce David Porter. David is the board chairman for the MMA Asia Pacific. He is also the vice president of global media at Unilever for APAC and Africa. And at Unilever, David is responsible for one of the largest media budgets in the world and a diverse region spanning 14 time zones. Under his leadership, the MMA has sought to shape the future and really find ways for new brands and businesses to understand and engage consumers in this incredibly fast-moving environment. So we've got a short video we'll play, and then I'll kick it over to David.
Thanks, Michael, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. Welcome from a very wet, biblically wet Singapore today. And I'd also like to welcome everyone from around the world, particularly some of our amazing speakers who are up at all times of day and night to be able to bring this webinar to you. Big thank you from me for that. As Michael suggested, I joined the MMA's board, hoping that we could really help marketers pull together all the insights and the resources that we need to thrive in this incredible region. And we've called the initiative Shape the Future. And the timing really couldn't have been any better, because we're all seeing now the way people and brands interact. It's getting much closer, more personal, and it's depending more and more on brands behaving with great authenticity. If you add to that the continued rise of mobile consumption and the way this pandemic has massively accelerated digital uptake across the board, plus the emergence of Gen Z as Asia's largest demographic, and you've got a complete transformation in the way brands and the public interact with each other. So we're going to do a few of these sessions and papers, kicking off with Enter the Metaverse, and the paper's out shortly. Because we're seeing the emergence of virtual worlds and immersive technology as a really thriving home for Gen Z consumers and for the progressive brands which serve them. I hope you find the session enlightening and entertaining. So it gives me great pleasure to hand you back now to Michael from the Culture Group, who will host the session today. Thank you.
And those of all of our speakers today. So before we get started, we want to let everybody know, if you've registered for the Zoom today, you're going to be receiving a fantastic white paper in the next 24 hours with insights not only from today's speakers, but from the team here at Culture Group and others from throughout the industry. This paper is really going to help you understand not only what's going on in the metaverse, but specifically how brands can engage consumers. So look out for that in your inbox really soon. And with that, we'd love to ultimately walk you through the metaverse marketing ecosystem, something that we've spent a lot of time looking into. Ultimately, today's topic is enter the metaverse, but what does that really mean? The first thing I would tell you is that the next big thing often starts off looking like a toy. Clay Christensen said this, and I think it applies to whether we're talking about comic books and the metaverse, the Marvel IP universe, or we're talking about sneakers, which are very much in vogue and hype beasts right now. And a lot of people think that the metaverse looks like a toy, and really things couldn't be further from the truth. So it's August 2021. If you're waiting for the metaverse to, quote, arrive, or you're waiting for some sort of an announcement, ultimately you're already too late. The metaverse is here. It's just not evenly distributed. But Asia is primed for success. And let us just break down this word first. Metaverse is really the successor state to the modern internet. It's enabled by Web3, and it features interconnected and decentralized virtual environments. Meta meaning beyond, and verse coming from universe. So as we sit here in Asia Pacific, we know the region is primed for success within metaverse and virtual environments. We've got a couple of stats why. First and foremost, this is a tremendously content-hungry region. 55% of the world's 3 billion gamers currently live in Asia. Within the last year alone, we've seen 30% growth in streaming video. We also know that this is a mobile-first region, so 90% of mobile users here are using smartphones, and more importantly, they're spending over 4 hours per day on their phones. So share of eye relative to mobile device is more significant here than it is anywhere else in the world. From an age and demographic perspective, the numbers couldn't be more attractive. Southeast Asia alone will be home to 25% of Gen Z in the next couple of years. So by 2025, a quarter of all people in the region will be Gen Z. And more importantly, they're engaging online, they're engaging socially through social commerce. Over 60% of e-commerce sales came from Asia, and more importantly, 26% of people in the region are discovering brands on social media. So what we're really painting a picture here is of a lot of digital engagement that's taking place that's now going to start to live virtually, and we'll give you some great use cases as to what that looks like. To understand the metaverse, ultimately, we need to understand what's known as Web3. And you're going to hear this talked about a lot today. All of us are familiar with Web 2.0 and the platforms that many of us have brought to market and made successful throughout the region: Facebook, Kumu, Netflix, YouTube. When we talk about Web3, we're talking less about massive companies and platforms, and we're talking more about the characteristics of what will allow people to engage. Web3 is going to be decentralized. It's going to be interconnected. It is blockchain enabled. It's co-created and user generated. It's going to be live and persistent. There is no start and stop in Web3 and in the metaverse. And more importantly, it will be tremendously economically fertile. And if you stay tuned, we've got some great panels today for people who are going to really help us understand how that economic fertility is taking place, how folks are engaging, and where commerce is taking place. So as we look at the metaverse marketing ecosystem real quick, we're really going to see a seismic shift from the type of marketing and engagement that as marketers we know today, starting from storytelling, moving into story making, starting from ultimately spokespeople and moving into virtual humans. And more importantly, shifting from direct to consumer to direct to avatar. And then a shift from experiences to what we would call massive interactive live events. Fast fashion is going to become virtual fashion, and we're already seeing that take place. And more importantly, loyalty programming is now going to be blockchain-backed benefits. So this is the seismic shift that's taking place. Let us give you a few examples of components of the metaverse marketing ecosystem. We'll start out with avatars. In the metaverse, everybody is going to have an avatar, and there's a great chance it's going to be created by genies. The folks from Genies are here today to talk to you. Ultimately, that avatar is going to be our virtual identity. It's going to have its own spending habits. It's going to have its own brand preferences. And rather than a user ID, that avatar will serve as our user ID online. Let's hear what Genies is up to.
Whoa! New Gucci just dropped.
Now, next we've got NFTs. So if you've got your avatar, you need to dress your avatar, and your avatar is going to be wearing virtual goods. Those virtual goods may be in the form of NFTs, which ultimately have moved well past collectibles and are now really seen as being functional technology. As a user who owns an NFT, whether it's a piece of virtual fashion or a collectible, you are likely to have blockchain-enabled benefits. And that's really a mix of the virtual world and the physical world. If you stay tuned today, you're going to hear Stephen from Artifact, the hottest virtual design studio, talking about how they've bridged those two and how they've enabled virtual creators to create virtual goods for end consumers in a borderless society. Let's take a look at Artifact. We're super excited to have Stephen here, and we look forward to chatting with him later. So now you've got an avatar, you've got some virtual clothing to wear, you need a place to wear it. So you're going to go to a virtual program. There is amazing virtual programming that is already taking place in metaverse environments. And what I would tell you is Gen Z does not distinguish between virtual experiences and physical experiences. Ultimately, these virtual concerts and virtual programming will enable limitless audiences. So we have already, between 3 virtual concerts across Roblox and Fortnite, seen over 40 million people attend in real time globally. Now, I want you to imagine a world in which you are a fan of BTS, you walk into a 7-Eleven, you scan a Coca-Cola can, and that then enables you to have access to a virtual concert. And if you're a lucky promotion winner, scanning that can is going to give you some sort of unique virtual benefit or unique virtual good, like a sneaker from the folks at Artifact. That's how virtual programming is going to bridge the physical and the virtual world. And taking it one step further, take a look at Ariana Grande. That was Ariana Grande's performance in Fortnite about 2 weeks ago, opening up Fortnite to a massive audience of young women. And when we talk about massive, it's really something that we want to convey when we think of the virtual world. It is truly limitless. This word MILE, M-I-L-E, stands for Massive Interactive Live Event. And Rival Peak, which we're seeing on screen here, is a massive interactive live event that had fan-influenced outcomes. It was shown on Facebook Watch globally. And what's great about Rival Peak is fans created the story. It was really a mixture of fan fiction, gaming, and film. And it was as relevant in Southeast Asia as it was in South America. Massive interactive live events are going to continue to grow. And when we look at ultimately what they can deliver, we're seeing more interactivity, more co-creation, and more fan fiction style engagement. And we can show you a quick video. Now that interactivity that we talked about is what makes that really special. So when you're watching Netflix, it's really a one-way relationship in which content is being broadcast or streamed to you. When we're talking about interactive events, ultimately the end viewer and consumer is determining the outcome. Now, one thing that you're going to hear about from Evan Shapiro, who's joining shortly, is the concept of extended reality. We have augmented reality, virtual reality. Broadly, we'll call it extended reality. Ultimately, we can see physical experiences begin to get gamified. We're going to start to see more phygital stores and showrooms, physical and digital. And a great stat out of Shopify, they've seen a 94% increase in conversion rate when augmented reality is used with Gen Z-based products. Let's take a look at what an extended reality future looks like. Fantastic. So now that we've introduced some metaverse marketing components and the metaverse marketing ecosystem, we really want to convey to everybody that building a brand in the virtual world is really different than building your brand in the physical world. Your brand may mean many different things. Your brand may be an enabler, it may be a participant, it may be an authenticator, or it may be a celebrant of culture or a celebrant of somebody's activities. We have some amazing marketers here today. Lindsay McInerney is joining from Anheuser-Busch InBev. We've got Veranda Tantula, who was formerly with Riot Games and is now running his own agency in the virtual realm. And they're going to be talking about brand role and authenticity. Before we get to that, I want to turn it over to a guest who's joining us from New York. It's 2 a.m. Professor Evan Shapiro from New York University's Media Department is here to talk about some of the companies that are building the metaverse. I want to work with them in the future. Evan, you're good.
Oh, hey, thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't, it is 2:30 a.m. here, so I'm in that frame of mind. I want to thank everyone for having me today. And when you ask yourself, what is the metaverse? Let's go to the next, go to the first slide. You have to think about, it's easier to list what it's not. Everything in media on all platforms at all times is a part of the metaverse. Anywhere you or your organization have an expression of your being, it is a region of the metaverse. There's a reason that Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of Facebook mentioned the metaverse 20 times as part of their last earnings call. First and foremost, they see the metaverse as the next great graduation of web, as Michael spoke about Web 3. And they see the opportunities for revenue there, especially extending their own current metaverse from social media into a larger realm as a huge opportunity for the company, which is why they're spending $5 billion a year on the metaverse. For something that they can't yet accurately define in their earnings call. So that's why one of the reasons why you need to focus on what your expression is in the metaverse is that it will extend to places you already are and to new worlds that are being built right now. Yes, Fortnite is a great part of the metaverse, but so are Instagram and TikTok and Tinder, and anywhere that you as a brand or you as a person express yourself. Those miles that Michael were talking about are one great example of how social media will evolve into a fully formed three-dimensional reality. But when you think about the metaverse, I think too many of us think about AR, VR goggles and sitting by ourselves on a couch playing in the virtual world. But as Michael mentioned, augmented reality is a growing part of the metaverse. And as he also mentioned, specifically for your region in Asia, mobile is such a huge part of what the current web is. In Web 3, it will be an integral gateway to the metaverse and all of these experiences. You can't think about reality, as Michael mentioned a little bit, as only virtual or augmented or physical. You have to think of it as extended, the extended reality of your brand and your personality across various platforms that will together make up the metaverse. The metaverse is going to be driven in large part, good case studies by Michael, again, previous to me, of the creator economy. There is definitely going to be a studio-based content economy that will live in the metaverse. When you go to Fortnite or you go to Minecraft, you will see big brands there from the traditional media on their platform this year. Can we go to the next slide, please? And that's part of the reason why Roblox, who's in the decentral zone over here in purple, their market cap is around $40 billion already as a brand new company out there. The reason why Epic is valued at the valuation that they are and feel that they can take on Apple in a court battle over the rules of the metaverse is because they have 350 million active users right now. In 2020, there were $5 billion in transactions on the Fortnite platform. And in fact, in the week between Christmas 2020 and New Year's Day 2021, users in the metaverse spent about $2 billion on services and products in the metaverse. The metaverse is an already thriving, fully functional ecosystem and economy where billions of dollars are already being made and spent, and the best real estate is currently being sold fast. You have to think about the metaverse, as I talked about earlier, as an interconnected web of information and content and data, from the traditional Web 2.0 social media to the more three-dimensional metaverses in places like Decentraland or in Fortnite. When you look at the earliest pioneers into this space, into the metaverse, whether it be Facebook and their expenditures on Oculus and the virtual reality that is predating the creation of the full metaverse. Or you look at some of these massively interactive online events that Michael was talking about, like the Lil Nas X concert that attracted 33 million concurrent attendees, or 33 million views, or the Travis Scott concert that drove about 12 million concurrent attendees. When you look at how the 1 billion hours of content streamed on games in 2020 was spent, yes, a good deal of it was gaming. Some of it were these massive online interactive events, but a lot of it was simply the new version of social media. Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, Animal Crossing, Decentraland. Yes, there are games in these metaverses, in these unique metaverses, but there are also a tremendous amount of opportunity to socialize and create community and create collaboration. And that's a big part of why the users of these very deep universes that we are now calling metaverses spend so many hours at a clip on these platforms. And then when you look at the content around the metaverse or about the metaverse, the platform like Twitch, which had 18 billion hours watched this year so far alone, you have to look at that as almost the CNN of the metaverse right now. And it is a platform that tells us what's going on in the different regions, but you have to see it as a connected part of the metaverse itself. Can you go to the next slide, please? And animate all three, thank you. This is what's at stake. These are predictions about the size of the economy in the metaverse in the next few years, in the next 5 or 6 years. And the rules of this economy are currently being written right now by companies and unicorns like Epic, who created Fortnite, and Decentraland, and Dapper, and Artifact, and giants like Facebook and Amazon. Think about the amount of mobile use that you see in your targeted consumers right now. And think about each one of those handsets as the front door, the gateway to the metaverse, because that's exactly how Gen Z sees it. They dive in there and they don their avatars in several different platforms. Sometimes it's a social media platform, sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's a shopping site. And they are actively in it while they're in the physical world, moving about as well. And that's why not only are these giant media companies and these new unicorns forming the rules of the economy of the metaverse, but so is, as Michael mentioned earlier, Gen Z itself. Can you go to the next slide? Generation Z is the most diverse generation in the history of the world. In some regions more so than others, but generally speaking, they're the largest generation in the economy right now. And they are also the most diverse. They come from the most diverse set of economic, societal, class, race, gender, intersectional identities than ever before. And that's why the metaverse has to be as complicated and decentralized as Michael started to explain it. The organization of a central company controlling something like Facebook or Instagram, it makes for a uniform experience for everybody everybody who goes there. But if you remember the original web, it was a mess. It was chaos. It was beautiful. And a lot of that is happening in the metaverse right now. But there's going to be a bit of that chaos that's baked into the very genetic code of the metaverse. The decentralization is not a bug; it is the feature of the metaverse, and that is driven in large part by the generation that will make the key decisions in the metaverse as things go along. Think about Fortnite and the fact that they are currently battling Apple over the rules of the metaverse. That gateway tax that gaming experiences all across the metaverse. Think about Roblox and how they've become the industrial complex / Y Combinator of the creator economy in the metaverse. Look at a place like Decentraland. Sorry. Decentraland is this wonderful example of the emulation of the physical world in the metaverse. Right now, the best real estate in the metaverse is being bought and sold on Decentraland. And what's cool about it is it is a wonderful, it epitomizes the metaverse beautifully. The place is owned by the creators themselves. And the rules are set per transaction and as you go along. And it is this wonderful Wild West, but also burgeoning, wonderful neighborhood of the metaverse. In fact, so much so that Atari is building a casino there. Perhaps we'll have the conference, this conference there next year. You look at Artifact as a great NFT generating machine, but so is one of the OG NFT content platforms, Dapper. And then something that's going to be really, really important to companies like yourself is a company like Krafton, who specializes in mobile experiences in the metaverse. Focusing on handset first gateways to the metaverse. These large and small companies are writing the rules around the metaverse right now because A, they have the resources in many cases, but B, they're there first. And what they're building is a world tailored towards this generation, Generation Z, populist, decentralized, competitive meritocracy. Yes, products really matter a lot. Brands really matter a lot in the metaverse, but so will the values that your company brings forth into the metaverse. The second you try to establish more and more walled gardens in a place like the metaverse, the harder it will be for you to transact. The key to unlocking the metaverse is thinking about it truly without limits. One of the key features of the metaverse is that it is limitless. It is persistent, as Michael said. It is always on. There is no pause button. You have to imagine every inch of the current media universe that you are utilizing today as an existing region of a larger metaverse, where your brand's alter ego is already existing, except today it's existing as a fragmented mosaic. Or in a place like Decentraland or Fortnite, it may not exist at all, maybe just an empty lot. And you have to think about your brand in the metaverse, in each region of the metaverse, whether it's Fortnite or Decentraland or Facebook or Oculus, as a piece of real estate that you need to build out or watch go to waste. You have to imagine your brand having one unified avatar across all the extended reality. You have to understand how you will exist in a persistent, limitless, and open economy. Where people will interact with your brands in a need for artificial intelligence 24/7, 365. And you have to determine how you and your brand will traverse all these realms and all these languages and all these currencies in the metaverse seamlessly. There was the web, then there was Web 2.0, and that became social media and apps. These were the foundations and the first story of what we are now building, a persistent, synchronous, fully functioning, transferable, translatable, transversable, populist, decentralized meritocracy called the metaverse. Your success there will be determined by your organization's ability to understand it and to capitalize on the opportunity that it represents. Thank you.
It's 2:45 in the morning in New York right now. We also have some other guests who are joining us from around the world. I couldn't be more excited for this panel. This is truly a who's who of who's building and who's operating properties and businesses in the metaverse. And I'd like to welcome our speakers. We have Allison Sturgis from Genie. She's the head of Asia operations and a member of the founding team. Hey, Allison.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We've also got Lindsay McInerney coming in from Anheuser-Busch InBev, joining us from London.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Lindsay, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And joining from Los Angeles, a good friend of mine and frequent collaborator, Veranda Tantula from Potion Projects.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to be here. I love culture, technology, and virtual worlds, and dedicated a lot of the last several years of my career towards it. So it's really exciting to be able to talk to everyone today.
Awesome. And joining us from India, from truly one of the world's largest companies operating in metaverse environments, Unreal Engine, which is actually creating most of what you see in the metaverse. Hey, Samir.
Hi, Michael.
So everybody, we are so thrilled to have you here because we have a lot of marketing practitioners, we have brand marketers, we have people who want to understand, how do I reach consumers? How does my brand enter this amazing world that Evan has portrayed? And I think the first thing that we'd love to ask is, Veranda and Lindsay, you are practitioners from a marketing perspective. What are some of the most exciting developments that you've seen in the past year, and why do those matter for brands?
Lindsay, would you like to kick it off?
Go ahead.
All righty. Well, I think that much like Michael's been talking about, Evan spoke about this. We really are finally hitting the true collision of the real and virtual world. I think it happened a little bit backwards because of the global pandemic, lockdown, et cetera. The other day when Michael and I were talking, I spoke about how right before the pandemic happened, the lockdown happened, we were in a place where the virtual world was starting to come into the real world via XR, AR, live events. I really think that the opportunity spaces for brands right now are at that intersection point. What happened was things kind of flipped around and we all had to take our real world, our real lives into the virtual world, right? Same thing, but just a slight shift there. And as previous speakers have talked about Web3 and whatnot, this is the most exciting time for me, I think, since Web 1, right? Like in the mid 2000s, and when the words influencer marketing were first becoming a thing, And I think the exciting things right now are, obviously, we're at the Wild West of things like NFTs as a technology and a product class. I think some brands are being very, very brave right now and taking some big shots in here. A lot of you might have seen Burberry collaborate in the last couple of weeks with Blanco's Block Party. Louis Vuitton, I think, has done a very authentic job of entering this space with their game for iPhone and Android that's come out recently that allows players to play to earn and potentially, get their hands on the first Louis Vuitton NFT, which is pretty amazing. The topic of play to earn itself is something that I think everyone here should familiarize themselves with. Games like Axie Infinity, which Evan mentioned earlier. While the concept of play to earn isn't the newest thing to gamers, I think the self kind of governed side of this, the side of decentral kind of ecosystems, is something that's increasingly important. And in a world where consumers are increasingly into authenticity, you can't, as a brand, you can't BS fans anymore, right? Everything has to be super authentic. It's going to go to a whole nother level as the fans themselves get to govern the ecosystems by which they interact. As we continue this discussion, as we move on to some of the other topics later, I think we're going to be talking a lot about authenticity today and how to kind of manage communities. So with that, Lindsay, I'll hand the mic to you for a moment.
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing is that we're here, right? This is something that people who are into science fiction have talked about for a long, long time. I think, going back to 2010, people were talking a lot about virtual reality, and we've seen that sort of wax and wane, but the pandemic has poured gasoline on all things digital. We know that. And now you're actually seeing, like, listen to the brands that Brenda mentioned. You're seeing Burberry, you're seeing Louis Vuitton, you're seeing Warner Brothers, you're seeing, not small brands enter this space. And that's not mentioning other mega brands, like obviously Visa buying a CryptoPunk yesterday. So, folks, we've been onto this and excited about it as nerds, self-proclaimed nerds for a while, but this is now a space that traditional, very conventional brands can enter, and gives you a world that has no confines of physics or reality to entertain, to surprise, to delight, and engage people in a complete alternate reality. So I think it's mega exciting.
And just to chime in, I apologize if I didn't appropriately introduce everybody. Veranda is a former creative director and head of pop culture special projects at Riot Games, and is now operating a boutique virtual agency from Los Angeles. So he's certainly qualified to speak about authenticity. And Lindsay is the global head of technology and innovation at Anheuser-Busch InBev, and played a critical role in launching their NFT-based initiatives earlier this year. So thank you both for that. I think one of the things we would love to talk a little bit about is the work that Samir does. Samir is coming from Unreal Engine, which is owned by Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite. And in his role, he's the business director for Asia Pacific. Unreal Engine is a production studio, Samir, and ultimately you guys are creating a lot of the visual virtual worlds that we see and that we know. Can you help us understand how brands are engaging with you guys as a studio and production company?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when you think about Unreal Engine, you really look at the core tool sets which are powering experiences like Fortnite or Krafton's PUBG or Battlegrounds. That it essentially is the core game engine that powers all these experiences. And as Epic, when we look at the ecosystem, we really look at that stack in three buckets. There's the experiences themselves, which is either Fortnite or Rocket League or soon to be Fall Guys, which will also be on Unreal. And then you have the tools, which is essentially Unreal Engine as the ecosystem. So it's not just the engine, it's a whole variety of tools, some of which have been acquired, some of which have been built in-house, including tools like the MetaHuman Creator. You look at Quixel Megascans, which basically has all textures and materials from around the world available for you to just drag and drop inside the editor. And then the third layer is the creators themselves. Unreal now has close to about 15 million people who are using the engine on a monthly basis, and that's really growing exponentially around the world. So when you put all of these three into a jar, what you really get is the building blocks for the metaverse, right? You have the experiences which currently, while we are designing some of the larger ones ourselves like Fortnite, there is a whole bunch of a variety of other ones which are happening in right from architecture, automotive to media and entertainment. And brands across the sphere are using these as a way to create these experiences using the tools that we have, but then also to kind of, in certain cases, like in the case of Ferrari, the 296 GTB, promote them in sort of social environments like Fortnite. Ferrari is an interesting example where the car itself uses Unreal Engine to design the car, but also test it out in sort of realistic environments. It's almost like a simulation of the real world. It's what they're able to do it inside of Unreal Engine. But then we're able to kind of take that experience and literally recreate it in Fortnite and popularize it in Fortnite, where we've taken a brand which has been working with us in the enterprise end and being able to push it out in front of millions of users in a gaming environment. So I think that's just happened in July, but that's an excellent example of how a brand is using tools built as the building, using tools which are part of the building blocks of the metaverse, but using them to create a real enterprise use case, but finding a way to popularize it in an experience like Fortnite.
That's amazing. And congratulations on all your success at Unreal Engine. So just to be clear, Unreal Engine is in many respects creating the canvas of the metaverse and creating great virtual environments. You've also got a lot of the tools necessary to paint that canvas, but more importantly, you have creators, up to 15 million people globally who are using those tools to create virtual environments. So a really interesting business. So we're hearing a little bit about what makes brands successful. We're hearing about how these environments get created. I'd love to hear from you, Allison. You work for this amazing company based out of Los Angeles called Genies, and you guys are creating the world's virtual human race. What is the world's virtual human race? And tell us about the mission that you're on.
I love it. Yeah, so with Genies, we're an avatar technology company, and we really believe avatars are a tool for that authentic expression that everyone keeps touching about in the digital world, with identity really being a key layer of the metaverse, and how people are expressing themselves digitally in completely new ways. We've spent the past few years really owning, 99% of the celebrity avatar market share, whether that's celebrity tastemakers, artists, athletes, allowing them and empowering them to use their digital identity as this, second virtual being for all of their virtual needs in the digital space. And so actually over the coming months, we're going to be releasing and opening up access for the everyday user, anyone really, to create their own 3D Genies, and through our API network, with Jiffy being our first integration partner, we're really building a vision for this portable digital identity where users can now bring their Genie around to all their favorite platforms, and really have one consistent identity for, to represent them and show up in the digital world. We've also partnered with Dapper Labs, the founders of NBA Top Shot, and we'll be releasing our avatar wearable NFT marketplace, where users or collectors will be able to purchase these fantastical, very expressive avatar wearables for their own Genies, providing real utility and real ownership for the end user. And so we're really excited about that, and bringing in the different celebrity tastemakers, brands, IP, and eventually even allowing anyone to create their own avatar wearables. But Michael, you touched on avatar wearables earlier. We really see those as kind of the building blocks of people's digital identity, and we want people to fall in love with that digital identity again that they're kind of bringing around to different places throughout the metaverse.
That's amazing. Thanks for that, and congratulations on all of your success. Genies is a company to watch. I'm fascinated by what you guys have created. And you mentioned NFTs, and I think that's a really good transition. So we all know this buzzword. Lindsay, you played a role in bringing a really cool NFT program to market for Stella Artois. And while we're going to go over a little bit on time, I know a lot of people want to learn more about that. Can you help us understand the process that you went through? And more importantly, how did you get your colleagues to better understand this form of technology?
Yeah, sure. So, look at NFTs are digital assets that allow people to uniquely own them. Blockchain technologies verify their verity, scarcity, and authenticity. And this gives people a chance to own the legacy and heritage of your brands, which I think is really, really exciting. We have been looking at, my role is to look for new and emerging technologies in the business, and I've never been more excited about the future of the internet. Web3 is the most explosive thing any brand can be investigating right now, no question. So we started to explore a number of different environments, a number of different projects and NFTs, and I have a core belief. My thesis is that brands should parallel in metaverse what they do in reality. And if you're not an art dealer in reality, probably time to reevaluate whether you need to produce art for metaverse or NFTs or anything else. So, one of the things we started exploring is where are there communities and spaces doing similar things to what our consumers do in reality, and how can we connect with them there? And Zedrun is a premium sporting platform. It's digital horse racing, which is an Ethereum-based game where users can own, breed, and race their digital horses. In reality, we had two brands that made perfect sense for. Budweiser, where we own Clydesdales and stables in reality. And of course, the other one being Stella Artois, which is the brand that we actually chose to partner with. Stella Artois sponsor one of the most premium horse races in the world in reality. And so this was a perfect synergy where we now were partnering with the most premium digital horse race in the world. So, took some time to get to know the guys there, and really a big fan of what they're building in the community. I wanted to find a way that would resonate really well. So importantly, had to trust Zedrun that, we didn't go in and try and do it the Web 2 way. We didn't go in and try and bully and get it done big brand style. It was, how does this make sense for your consumers, for your community? How can we add value to them, and how will they perceive that? And I think that was, the key ingredient for us, from my side, was not going in there to add value for AB and Bev, but going in to add value for the players, for the consumers of the Zedrun platform, for the people who already own horses. And we felt that strongly, if we got that right, it would be a good one for us as well. And that's turned out to be, a really big success.
You use the term big brand style, so I want to throw it back to the group. As brands start to engage in the space here, can you guys help us understand what the mentality should be of the brand marketer? How do they approach the space in a unique way without interrupting consumers, and more importantly, without putting themselves as a brand first? How do they put the consumer first?
If you don't mind me chiming in, I think just that you put the community first and you put the audience first, right? And so by doing that, what I'm suggesting is, I think it's really important that brands invest heavily in community and community management, and hiring of folks that really understand community management in a super authentic way. If all of you aren't yet on Discord, jump into Discord, just learn it. Join a couple groups for a couple things you like. I think there's a huge opportunity space for brands. I don't think there are enough brands on Discord just yet. Learn the space, learn it authentically, hire folks that genuinely live in these subcultures. And one little tip too is, don't listen to anybody that says they're an expert in this space just yet, because there aren't any. We're in the Wild West, So I'll hand off to one of my other speakers here.
Yeah, maybe I can just drop a quick note on that, is that generally when you think about current social media, it's all about sharing. This version of social media is about participating. So if you can find a way that your brand is engaged with the audience and is centered around how you can get them to participate in your story, in the form of using it or in the form of an artifact that adds value to the shared world that they occupy, I think you'll be in a good spot.
Awesome. Well, for those of you who are expecting this to end at 3 o'clock, we're going to go a little long. The good news is we've got some amazing insights to be able to share with you. So we've got another question on the panel, and then we have an amazing interview coming up with Stephen from Artifact, which is basically the supreme of the virtual world. Before we go over to Stephen, guys, the metaverse is by nature decentralized. So there isn't a representative of the metaverse walking into a brand's office the way that Google walks in or Facebook walks in today. How do brands go about identifying the right partners? How do they find the hot, cool, emerging technology companies? And is it best to partner with a small emerging company or to look for a massive partner? What do you guys think?
I'd say potentially kind of diversify, right? Take a couple bets on some bigger outfits, take some bets on some smaller ones. I think it's really important to not only look at, to use some financial words here and things, don't look at market cap alone, look at the projects themselves and adoption, look at the founding teams of these things and see how engaged, once again, I'm going to go back to community, see how engaged their community is. Even if it's smaller, it has insanely high engagement. If there's a lot of loyalty on Discord, etc. I think those are folks worth taking bets on. And without getting into a bunch of crypto native stuff here, there's a lot of sites, things you can keep your eyes on, Crypto Slam, etc., for kind of what's big and what might be worth taking a bet on. At Potion, one of the things we're doing is we're taking some bets on some bigger projects and clients. We work with the League of Legends League in China. On the smaller side, we work with a gaming startup out of Paris called Screenshot. And it's 6 people, but they're doing the most amazing work in play to earn. So I'd say kind of diversify, take bets, and just, once again, hire folks that live, sleep, breathe this culture to help you vet those things, whether you're hiring them internally or working with, external agencies.
And before we close, Allison, you work with brands all the time in collaborations. Any thoughts on the ways that brands should be approaching who they partner with and how?
Yeah, I think honestly, even going off of Veranda's points, I think finding almost allies in the space that you can be innovative and collaborate with, whether these are platforms or organizations or even individuals. I think some of the coolest even NFT projects that we're seeing right now are partnering with, digital artists who are very unique and want to kind of collaborate with technology and with art and with creation. And so I think finding kind of those unique partners that your brand and your brand ethos really align with. And even kind of, again, touching on what Veranda was saying as well is, you guys integrate yourself into the space, get into the Discords, get into the Twitter conversations, buy an NFT, hop into the platforms. You'll start to kind of understand, what the space is even like out there. What are the consumers like, kind of get in their headspace. And I think that's a really great way to even connect and see, again, what aligns with your brand, with your core ethos, and how you can really be authentic in who you're collaborating with.
Awesome. Well, we've got more insights from this panel. So we are showing those insights in our white paper. We have a 10,000 word white paper. It's 45 pages long, and it will explain everything that a brand marketer needs to know, wants to know, and should know about engaging in the virtual world. And we've got contributions from all of our speakers today. So for everybody who's joining this panel from around the world, thank you guys for being here. We've got one interview left. Everybody hang on, it's going to be a really good one. But thank you to Allison and Lindsay, Samir, and Veranda. And everybody, we know that there are questions that are being asked. All of those questions are now going to be asked in the Q&A at the end of today's session. So if you'll stick around, we'll make sure that those questions are asked. We also know people are looking for the deck. Can we get the presentations that were shared? And we'll make sure that we get some links out to everybody within the next couple of days. So joining us now is going to be Stephen Vasilev. Stephen is the co-founder and CEO of RTFKT. RTFKT, by the way, is a company that was founded 18 months ago, but has generated over $35 million in revenue through digital art and virtual art. Stephen, where are you joining us from?
I'm actually in Costa Rica. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Let me first start off. You guys have been described as the supreme of the metaverse. You've been described as the hottest virtual design studio. What is RTFKT?
RTFKT is a brand focused on creating the next gen of digital collectibles. We do everything from toys to wearables. And main factor what differentiates us from other brands in the space is we have a real motive of democratizing creativity through the use of manufacturing physical goods. So we actually coined our own term where you use the NFT to redeem a physical good called forging. With that, we opened up a new distribution mechanism to allow our early adopters and fans to generate wealth from the NFT, and also using the NFT to redeem as many utilities. So how it works is you'll buy an NFT sneaker like I've got in the back. From that, you'll receive perks such as receiving that game in different Decentraland, different virtual worlds to use as a game skin. And then also you can redeem a physical item, which then you can flex and wear in real life. We also partnered with StockX to allow a secondary trading platform for our physical items. And in addition to that, with Snapchat to provide AR as a way to try on and flex your digital items. So we provide all the same utilities a sneaker collector or someone who's involved in streetwear or culture, but to do everything on the blockchain with the scarcity defined history of who owned the product or the asset, and also introduce new and different mechanics to gamify and make the experience more enjoyable.
Fantastic. So when people say, what's the next phase of NFTs, you really have just described it, which is the convergence of physical and virtual, and ultimately purchasing a product virtually that enables physical benefits, and then being able to understand not only the history of that product, but having future benefits that you can access because you're a holder of the virtual product. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We also believe that in the next 5 years, people will be collecting more digital goods than physical. Right now, we treat the physical product as when you're buying a game, you can buy the digital copy, but you can also buy the collector edition. So we're just diversifying the product experience with the physical good, but we have the ambition to create our own platform focused on creators. We're an open source community brand. So we work with a bunch of native creators of the space, and we work with everyone on the same basis that it's a 50-50 rev split, no matter how old the artist is, whether they're 15 or 20. We provide a lot of the support on the manufacturing, also the 3D side. And we believe that this technology is super important and powerful in generating wealth for new communities. Right now, artists who utilize social media can build up a community of collectors or a fan base where they can build and create experiences. So we really want to empower the next generation of creatives, because we believe creativity through corporate environments has created a process where it's very hard to break out as an individual artist. It takes years of work, and traditional artists would make the most money when they passed. And we believe now it's a future with the royalty system that's enabled by NFTs, where artists can gain the correct recognition and compensation that they deserve.
That's fantastic. So you truly are democratizing the creative and the revenue process. Let's talk a little bit about how people access your products and your goods. You guys are described as masters of the drop. How do you determine what products you're dropping, what they're going to cost, and more importantly, who's going to be able to access them?
Right. So on that, it really comes from the three co-founders, what we want to drop. We span over 30 years of geek culture, from Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, anime, and we like to get together and just think of what's the coolest thing we can create together that no one else can. In terms of distribution, we love to integrate and include our early adopters. So mechanisms to allow these people who own our existing NFTs to claim future ones. All of our drops today have sold out within 5 or 10 minutes, some even going at 30 seconds. And what we've seen is a dramatic ×6 instantly appreciation of our assets. So we're watching how we're creating assets that generate wealth. We did a collaboration with Jeff Staples where we released 100 pigeons for $1. They're now selling for 12,000. So we really want to support our early adopters, and we believe our NFTs are a way of investing in our brand, as we're like a game studio that whenever we release an NFT, we always bring new utilities and we don't really announce them till afterwards, which drives the price up and really supports the ecosystem that we built.
Fascinating. Well, congratulations on all of your success. And we're going to ask Stephen to stick around because we've got some great questions. We've chosen 5 of them from the audience, and we'll ask them to our panelists and to Stephen now. So we'll ask everybody to come back in, and we'll make sure that we can get all of these questions answered. And again, Stephen, what a clear example of how the virtual world and the physical world intersect, and more importantly, the impact you're having on the creator economy and ultimately bringing NFTs into a very functional space. Really awesome stuff. So yeah, absolutely. So we're going to ask everybody to turn their camera on, and we've got a couple questions that are going to be asked. So this one's from Taylor Agasim, who's joining from Saudi Arabia. Given the race to win in the metaverse, how will companies integrate across platforms as opposed to platforms trying to capture all of the economics or all of the exclusive partnerships? I'll throw that one out to the group.
Do you want me to take it?
Go for it, sir.
I mean, the idea really is that, the metaverse we're hoping will be a lot more open. We've already seen sort of closed platforms in the form of the App Store, amongst other platforms, which basically take a toll. But the way to think about it is that if the current way that you navigate the web and not the internet, the web is the browser. And then on top of that, they gave a whole bunch of applications. And when the mobile phone was invented in terms of the iPhone, you had the app stores emerge, which basically caused the ecosystem to be locked down. But if you look at it from the perspective of the browser, essentially you can visit any website you'd want, or you can take any service you want using the browser. And similarly, we believe that games, which are essentially one of the more experiential layers, I spoke about the 3 parts components to it. There's the experiences, there's the tools, and there are the creators. But if you look at the experiences, the ability to go from one experience to the other. It's a lot like going from one club to the other, or going from one party to another. And really the ability for it to, have a common standard underlying that. And the common standards, there are many to talk about, but, currencies, the ability to have it to be, used and interchangeable is a lot like the modern world today. So those kind of standards and protocols we hope is what will make the metaverse a thriving ecosystem, both on the end of tools being able to interop with other tools, but also in terms of experiences being able to be interoperable with other experiences. So while there will be closed ecosystems, just like there are closed governments, we hope that the way that the metaverse is being built will have tools providers as well as experience providers find a way to end up being able to cross play with each other. We're seeing that in games as well, especially with Fortnite. When you have the ability to cross play, overall the benefits for everybody in the ecosystem, including hardware manufacturers, are manifold, and they increase far more than in the case of closed environments where interoperability is limited.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. This next question is from Nick Halberg, and we'll direct it to you, Lindsay. I think you're great to answer this. In regards to Asia and specifically China, what are some of the risks involved in tapping into the metaverse and the local consumer market, given potential restrictions on cryptocurrency and/or blockchain technologies? Obviously, there's a lot of huge upside, but for brands to engage, you have to evaluate that risk. I'm sure you went through that process as you looked at your programs at Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, look, the world's a big place, and the metaverse has no borders. So I'm not particularly, personally, can't speak for ABI, but I'm not particularly concerned about one country's, direction on specific cryptocurrencies. I think there's a lot of, other markets that are incredibly exciting. Every market seems to be adopting some sort of digital currency. And the fact of the matter is that the way large brands like us need to diversify their portfolios and have strategies on global currencies in traditional fiat money, I personally believe that many will have to have a similar approach, to these worlds, having a balance of a couple of different currencies. And so there is an operational digital currency in China. And, my assumption would be is that, brands will have to likely think about how they play and adopt, a few of those ones in order to enter.
Very clear. Now, this one is for you, Allison. It's a perfect question for you. Somit Basak is asking, can brands own an avatar with sponsorships? Can brands create their own avatar, much in the way that football clubs might own a player and then transfer it to another club? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there's definite potential for, brands to have, their representative identity within kind of the metaverse of the digital landscape. I think even you're seeing with digital influencers, obviously like Lil Miquela, or even with Super Plastic. I think Super Plastic has been a great example of digital representation and how they personify, these characters that they've brought to life, that they not only sell physical products in the real world, but have created these digital identities in obviously the digital world. So I think there's a lot to do as far as how brands can personify themselves. And whether that's in the form of an avatar or avatar wearables or an NFT or whatever it might be, I think all of those can kind of be represented as this digital identity that lives throughout the ecosystem and the metaverse.
That's great. Thanks for that. There's a question I'd love to ask for Stephen, because it really involves monetization. What are the opportunities, and this is from Rob Willock, what are the opportunities for individuals to benefit from their metaverse activity and their metaverse identity, both virtually as well as in the physical world? How can people earn from their virtual behavior?
So I think there's a few ways to answer this, but there's a lot of parts that goes into like the opportunities of NFTs. I think one is the community aspect, getting involved in the NFT space or community. You'll meet loads of like-minded collectors and be part of a engaging community where you use these NFTs as status symbols to display your interests, what you like to collect, or even support new and upcoming talents. There's also a wealth generation where these NFTs are very volatile in a good way, and prices can spike up very high. And I personally know loads of people who have become millionaires, even 15-year-old kids who launch their own projects, making hundreds of thousands. And then in the real world, we've seen this with a few projects like the Bored Apes. These communities are super strong and they actually do physical events. You're just brought into a whole new life pretty much. And with what we do at Artifact is having the physical product that you can wear to these conventions and meetups. And it's the same why people buy collectible sneakers now, is to assign to like a tribe or an identity and get their status or their identity seen by everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Now, our final question today before we wrap up is geared towards you, Veranda. You're working in a global capacity, and this question from Audrey Naidu. She wants to understand what regions of the world are most significant right now. Are we seeing the most engagement virtually in Asia? Are we seeing it in the West?
I would say that in a way that I've never seen happen before. I've been really fortunate to work globally in my previous experience, and I've been really part of a lot of communities recently. Things like Clubhouse got me through the pandemic, being able to connect with people. And my short answer is this: I don't see this as an Asia only thing right now. I'm seeing people engage from all over the world. I'm seeing it connect people in like the coolest way ever. Like we were on a call recently and there's like speakers from Africa, India, there's somebody from Brazil and South America. And so I think that in a way that, many of us have sort of like moved into and evolved into globalization. I think Gen Z sees a little bit borderless, and I think that the only borders they see might just be between, different sort of virtual ecosystems. But generally speaking, like, I think this is happening everywhere right now. Perhaps little bits of regulation based on sort of government regulation in different parts of the world, but generally speaking, no. And I think that the opportunity spaces, as Lindsay mentioned, I think inevitably different countries are going to have different regulation here. So I don't think that one country's regulation should really stop you from wanting to sort of innovate or push your brand in a relatively cohesive manner. I think that technology, games, music, all these ways that you can engage in the virtual world, they're universal languages, right? And so, I think that the possibilities are sort of endless here, and they're very global.
That's fantastic. Well, first and foremost, thank you to all of our speakers who are joining from around the world. I know that the wisdom you shared is going to be massively beneficial to all of our attendees. Thank you to everybody who did attend. We went a little bit late on time, but hopefully it was worthwhile. I think we've got a lot of knowledge that's been imparted today. And thank you to the board of directors of the MMA, and the board chairman, David Porter from Unilever, and of course, Rohit Gadawal, who leads the MMA in Asia Pacific. If you want to learn more about the metaverse, check out the white paper that's going to be sent to you in the next day or so. You can learn more about shaping the future of marketing from the MMA's website, and you can learn more about Culture Group on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing everybody in the metaverse.